Hello, it's Wednesday. I'm Chris, that's Watson, and we're going for a walk. So, latter part of last week, the National Police Chiefs Council released their statistics on firearms licensing. Now, I love numbers. It is one of many of my worst characteristics, that I am an absolute geek when it comes to numbers. But not everybody is like this. But when you look at those numbers, frankly, how is anybody supposed to make sense of how their local police force is doing? So, what I've done is I think there are three key things that shooters should be interested in. One, that's the output, how effective their team is, how many files they get completed, because it gives you a really good indication of how long it's going to take for your grants, renewals, and so on and so forth. So I think that's important. The other thing that's important is how likely are you to be revoked or refused? How willing is that force to use its powers under the Firearms Act to take your guns away? Sometimes that can be absolutely justifiable. Public safety is something that should be a priority for all of us. But it is weird when you see one force who is potentially revoking and refusing 18 times more often than another. The question it asks for me is the shooting community in those two counties really that different? So that's the other part of it. And in order to try and be helpful, I have ranked those forces from 1 to 43. 1 being the best for a shooter, or being what you shouldn't worry about, 43 being the worst. That's not a perfect way of doing things. That's far from it. But it's the simplest way that I can think of to let you have a real idea about how your force is doing. The other thing that I think is really important is how many temporary permits your force has got. Temporary permits and the issuing of them is a real strong indicator of how well that force is working more generally. So lots of temporary permits, never a good thing. So that's what I presented for you. The good news is that there are loads of forces out there doing some really great work under some difficult circumstances. But the bad news is there are a lot of forces with clearly some ingrained issues that come up in more than one of those charts that intend to indicate poor performance. Have a look, see where your force lies, and thank you very much for your attention. Shoot well, shoot often, and shoot responsibly. Thank you. Bye-bye.